All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Hinds. I serve on Denver City Council, representing District 10, or as I like to say, Denver's Perfect 10. Thank you for being here tonight. If you're not exactly sure where District 10 is, it includes Congress Park. And if you're trying to figure out why we're here, what the meeting is, the meeting tonight, the town hall is about discussing trash collection in Congress Park. So hopefully you are in the correct meeting. Just so we have a little bit of a recap of what has what has happened so far. There was a decision by our Department of Transportation Infrastructure to change trash collection a little more than a year ago in Congress Park from the alley to the street. And we immediately received some concerns about trash collection and the new trash collection methodology. And so I asked DOTI to come to a committee to speak about the new trash collection strategy in Congress Park. That happened on July 27th, 2021. Since then, we continue to field emails and calls daily about the trash strategy in Congress Park. And so I wanted to bring together this town hall so that we can have the folks in Congress Park hear from DOTI, and also very importantly, have our trash collection folks hear from the many residents in Congress Park who are not elated with the decision. So as a result, we opened up this town hall. So if you're here, thank you so much. We also asked people to submit their address should they have questions or concerns about the collection strategy. I'll show the results of that in a minute. We also asked people to submit their top 2 concerns about the trash collection strategy, and we gave a somewhat robust list of options. And I'll share that as well. So what you should expect tonight is you'll hear an introduction from DOTI leadership. We also recognize that some people who have participated or who are participating tonight may not have participated in all the previous Congress Park trash meetings. So I've asked DOTI to take at most 15 minutes to introduce themselves and share a bit about the history of Congress Park trash collection. I've also asked DOTI to answer a few questions that we consistently hear from residents. For example, why does DOTI feel it should change trash collection in Congress Park from the alley to the street? Have there been safety improvements in the last year versus previous years? And we've also asked DOTI to reserve at least 20 minutes for additional questions so that we can answer any and all of them. And finally, we'll have the opportunity to talk about next steps. I have a couple of suggestions that I would, and frankly, challenges that I would like to give DOTI. And I'm sure the community has interest in hearing some of those and interest in hearing some of the responses from DOTI too. So I have an ask of the community too. I want to make sure that everyone here tonight is here for an honest conversation about trash collection that is constructive and polite. I want to share that I've been pretty open about how I feel DOTI goofed when it notified neighbors on Thursday that trash collection was moving to the street the following Monday. I've also been pretty open about how I feel DOTI missed an opportunity to engage the community before making such a significant change in an essential service. As city employees, we are here to serve the public. We sometimes have to make tough decisions that don't have the support of 100% of Denver residents, but not having any conversation at all is not how we should be public servants. So I have shared that with DOTI. You have shared it with me. You have also shared it with DOTI and in social media as well. So I hope that that we can recognize that those are things that we shouldn't do, and hopefully DOTI has learned that we won't be doing in the future. Hopefully we can move past those. So that we all have the same information please be patient and allow DOTI to share their introduction and a bit of information. And just for what it's worth, the goal is to have the town hall wrap up in an hour. Just so you know, it is my priority for this town hall is my priority for this evening, and we certainly will be available. The entire District 10 office is here on this Zoom tonight, and so we will all be available for tonight for questions, but also in the future. So if you feel like something didn't get answered, don't fret. So so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to talk about the map results. Let's see, how am I going to do this? So in preparation for this this conversation, I asked folks to submit submit their address, and you didn't have to submit anything else, but submit your address if you feel that that the trash collection strategy wasn't what you were expecting in or wasn't what you wanted. And let's see. Apologies that this is taking a second for us to get this sorted. That's not what I wanted. Okay, how do I get to? Of course, as technology is, looks like that's also not what I wanted. Well, this is definitely unfortunate. Okay, well, I will give you a link that you can go to now in your browser, which is not as compelling as actually having it on the screen right now. But if you go to denverperfect10.com/trash map, then you can actually see the list of pins of all the different addresses that we had submitted or that you have submitted and we actually created a top-down representation. We had 94 responses that we added to the map. So we were looking for any particular patterns. Turns out that there weren't any particular patterns. It was basically all over Congress Park. So thank you to all those who submitted your address, and apologies that I cannot get that on the screen right now. Oh, actually, let me try one more thing. Okay, so can you see that? All right. So again, I want to thank you for reaching out and providing your information. This is a pretty expansive list, so I think we can all agree that that there was more than just a couple of responses or a couple of people concerned. The next thing I want to share are the results of the survey. So I want to thank the many of you who responded. The two biggest concerns were people listed as their top concerns. The two largest or the two greatest responses were that street pickup is inferior to alley pickup, and moving my collection bins to the street is a safety concern. And then on the second, people selecting for their second concern, the two most common responses were parking is complicated due to bins being on streets, and street pickup is inferior to alley pickup. So I want to thank all of you who wrote in. We shared this information with DOTI in advance of this meeting. So I have taken up again, apologies for my technological snafu, but I have taken up enough time. I'd love to transfer this over to DOTI for an introduction. So Ms. Medellin, please.
Thank you, Councilman Hinds, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. My name is Margaret Medellin. I'm a deputy manager at DOTI, and joining me today, our interim director of solid waste management, that is Rich Villa, and also our manager of solid waste, Josh Salazar. And Josh oversees the district that Congress Park is a part of. And we're going to go through a quick PowerPoint, and then also have some videos, and that didn't share, did it? Okay, let's try again. Okay. Have some videos and photographs to share, but just really quickly for background for folks. For those of you who don't know who DOTI is and what we do, DOTI does stand for the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. And we essentially manage all of the infrastructure, all the services in the right of way, all the services that really keep the city moving. So we've got a wide range of activities that we cover, including the street sweeping, which I know did make it to the top list of concerns, and also parking. So we are coordinating with other divisions within DOTI so that we can really bring solutions to the community. And in fact, right now, we have one of our divisions working on a planning process called Denver Moves Everyone, where they are looking at all the streets and parking concerns and mobility issues in the city. And at the end of this, I'll give you a link that you can go to so you can participate with that and make sure your concerns about parking and street sweeping and everything else are also included as we continue to plan. I did want to talk about, I know Councilman Hinds did ask me to talk about, what changed? Why did we have to make a change in service now? And really the simple answer is the city's changing. We have seen a 24% increase in population just since 2008. This is a 2020 number, and it's gone up since then. But we are one of the fastest growing cities in the US. If we take a look back to the beginnings of Denver and when these streets were laid out and what type of size of vehicles and type of activity that was planned for our more historic areas of town. And you can tell a lot has changed since then. And really we need to change to keep up with more modern uses of our right of way. Thought kind of fun to find a old picture of an alleyway. I don't know the alleys well enough to know where this is, but perhaps Josh or Rich, that might look familiar to you. So we want to do a focus on solid waste management and the changes that we have done recently and changes that we know have affected you. One of the changes that we did in 2022 is that we rerouted the city. Now that was the first time we've done that in many decades. And by rerouting the city, we were able to also align our staff so that we have managers that oversee divisions. We have supervisors that are focused on different areas of town. And really our hope is that we can have a more direct connection with our community. We also know that solutions that work in one part of town won't work in another. So that is something that Rich and Josh and the teams focus on, and this new structure is allowing them to operate a little more efficiently. So the cart set out locations, why did we do that? Why did we make this change? And really a lot of this has to do with, we had to create efficiencies. We have gone through a very challenging time. We're still in a challenging time. It does feel like we're getting out of it, but as everyone here knows, just globally, we've had issues with supply chain. We have had labor shortages. We had to make some pretty quick changes in operations so that we could continue to give the service to the city. We recognize that some days your collection may be delayed by a day or more, but we have still every week been able to provide service. And in fact, we increased service by going back to our monthly big item pickup, bulky item pickup. So again, this is part of the, what led us to now? What was the breaking point? Why did we have to make changes? We also looked at in this particular area, in these alleys, we had a lot of property damage. And I know Josh and Rich will go through this a little bit more in a few minutes. We also had a lot of injuries. And something I think that we've really, as a society, that we no longer accept are really dangerous workplaces. And solid waste management is among one of the top 10 most dangerous careers. And I think as a society, we've accepted a lot of unsafe conditions for our employees. And that's something that we are really moving away from, and finding ways that we can do our job, but do it in a way that we really do protect our crews. So with that, we also know that this change, especially in areas where we have steep steps, where people may have to maneuver carts through difficult areas, especially, and we've heard a lot from some of people in our community who are older, or maybe who have mobility issues. And we did work with the Office of Aging and Mobility, and came up with some operational accommodations, and to help keep our community safe as well. And what we have offered is really reach out to your solid waste supervisor or manager. And of course, this would be through 311. You could call in, and then the connection would be made. And the driver will actually come to your location and pick up your bins, take them down, empty the bins, and take them back. And this is an accommodation that it does take a lot of effort, but it's something that when we looked at the big picture of the timing, of the amount of time it takes to maneuver through alleys, the lost time we have when we have injuries, when we have damage, this was something that the team said, this is an accommodation that we can offer the community that will also allow us to be more efficient. So for those of you who don't know about that, this is something that we offer. And I think we have about 17 residents who have taken advantage of this. So, especially as we're starting to look into the winter months, and I think probably a lot of you help your neighbors who need a little help in the winter months. We need, there are more dangerous conditions with snow and ice, and some of you may help them with their bins as well, but that's something we can do also if there's, not someone who can assist. And if someone needs that, we are, our drivers have the uniforms, the shoes, the equipment that they can do this and in a safe manner. So please do consider that if you have concerns. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Rich Villa now and let him talk a little bit about the history of solid waste management service in the Congress Park area. He's actually been with us for quite a while, and so I think he can give some background on service here and why this was the time we felt to make a change.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rich Villa. I'm the interim director for solid waste. I've been with solid waste for 24 years. I did start on the back of a trash truck. I did service the Congress Park neighborhood on the back of a rear loader as a laborer and a driver. So I know the challenges of the alleys with the tightness and the width of the alley. So when we were picking it up manually by hand, There was a lot of people that I'm sure you guys know what your alleys look like, but what we call cutouts or ledges, and that's where the 32-gallon trash carts would be, in those and on ledges, so that we were able to fit the trash truck through the alley because of vegetation, trees, gutters hanging over, garages, things like that. And then I also collected recycling with when they were in bins before we went to carts, driving through those alleys with the same thing. And so then when we went to pull the dumpsters, and we went to an automated a cart-based city, we pulled the dumpsters, and then we offered 65 and 95-gallon trash cans. So what some of the things that I know that are in the alley is, when we first did the trash carts, people were still putting them on ledges. So instead of a 32-gallon trash can, you now have a 65 or a 95-gallon trash cart that could weigh anywhere from 75 to 150 pounds. Because that was the only way to put the carts out so that we could fit through the alley. So that was one of the reasons. And Josh will show you that, some pictures in the video. So when we did this, we went out and we demoed a small AMRAP, which is the type of truck that we use now, but it's a smaller in length and just a little bit in width. And we went out and demoed it for council person at the time, Rob, and some other people. I was there. And the issues that we had is that the truck just couldn't reach and grab and make it through the alley and be able to service the carts, because a cart is 3 foot wide. So when it's sitting in the alley, that takes 3 feet away from the width of the alley, and it just makes trying to navigate through the alley almost impossible. So that's a little bit about the history of the trash service, how it has evolved over the years. So I will now turn it over to Josh.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Joshua Salazar. I'm the manager that oversees District 10, City Council District 10. I also oversee everything east of Broadway, basically, from the solid waste standpoint, from the districts that we have. I am in districts 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 9. Some of the challenges that I know that we've already addressed is some of the vegetation and switching from like a manual collection in the eastern part of Congress Park, where we used to have the 32-gallon cans, and we used to go through there in the alley and collect behind the properties with the 32-gallon cans, or some residents would put out the like trash bags or something along those lines. It's evolved from there. I mean, even with now's collection with the 65-gallon carts, even the 32-gallon carts and the 95-gallon carts, maneuvering those carts is very physical. In the 32-gallon cans that residents had before with the manual collection, the typical can was about 50, 40 pounds each one, and residents had multiple ones. Well, now with the 65-gallon cans and the 95-gallon cans, the carts are anywhere from 75 pounds to 120 pounds. So doing that throughout the day is, very challenging for not only the operators maneuvering around those carts, but also the laborers behind them maneuvering them to empty them in the back of the truck. It's challenging in some of these areas because they are very good or very condensed alleys. So there's a lot of utility poles, a lot of vegetation, a lot of, businesses that get deliveries throughout the day as well. So these are some of the challenges that our drivers are coming across, where we're going to put our drivers in some unsafe positions where they're going to have to back out onto you know, 14th Avenue, 8th Avenue, 13th Avenue. So with that, you know, maneuvering through the alley and not having the enough space, you know, I was able to provide some pictures with Councilmember Hinds and, you know, show some of the challenges that we have in some of these alleys, you know, with the fence lines that go all the way to the alley line, the capacity that the alleys have, I don't know if we would even have the amount of space for the trash, recycling, and compost carts. Now at the curb, we are able to utilize the front of our properties, and we're able to utilize the avenues of the properties. So with this, you know, it gives us a little bit more leverage to pick up the carts in a more efficient manner with the routes that are already over there. I know the amount of houses that were affected last year when we did switch over from alley collection for trash to the curb collection to go along with the recycling and the compost, you know, it's roughly 2,500 homes. And that was over a 4-day process. So it was over Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So since we have switched over to the districts, now 80% of it is collected on Tuesday. The other 20% of it is collected on Monday. So with having to switch all those operations, if we did not make that change, now we're having, you know, one driver and a laborer try to collect 2,500 homes of trash, and then have another set of vehicles picking up at the curb line of automated of the carts. So I mean, these are a lot of the challenges that we're dealing with when it's not just in Congress Park, throughout the city, that there's a lot of, you know, historic alleys that have older utility poles. They have overhangs from their garages that have been struck by either our vehicle or somebody else's vehicle. And they just have, you know, a lot of vegetation that blocks our view of passing through there safely. And for us to have a labor constantly going from house to house to house behind there, it creates, you know, it creates an unsafe environment for them, because we don't know if these utility poles, if we strike them, I mean, are they going to fall into somebody's property? Are they going to cause a live wire to come down? So these are the challenges that we come across every single day in the industry that we're working in, and we try to address it accordingly to what we can in each neighborhood. And that's what I have for our challenges. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh. And I know that you'd prepared a video. Can we walk through that video just to show everyone the kind of the view from the people in the alley?
Yes, give me 1 second. Let me pull it up, please. Can everybody see this video right here?
Yeah, we've got it.
Okay. So, and I had another video that I was trying to upload. I'm having some difficulties with that. But these are some of the ledges that are in this neighborhood that a lot of residents do try to utilize to put their trash, their recycling up on top. And this does cause some challenges as we're trying to move a 95-gallon cart, a 65-gallon cart. You know, we're asking our laborers to pull that off of that ledge, as you will, and empty in the back of one of these trucks is what it would look like. You know, obviously we have a lot of extra trash in this alley. This mattress, as this driver's driving through with the brush in this alley, I mean, he cannot see that mattress going through there, and it catches onto the bottom of our trucks. And if it catches onto our tires, then it's obviously going to cause us to break an airline or, rub up against somebody's property. I do have some other pictures. If you give me a second, I could share those as well from the neighborhood.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Just for what it's worth, I also posted into the chat a YouTube link directly for that video.
Okay.
So if someone wants to, I know sometimes Zoom makes it a little jerky, but if you want to see it directly, you can do so on that YouTube link. When was that video taken?
That one was this morning.
Got it. Thank you. And you're sharing, you're going to pull up some photos. You're going to share your screen and pull up photos. Is that right?
Yes, give me a 1 second. I'm trying.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and apologies that we're not all technical experts or Zoom experts, but there we go. Looks like you got it shared now. So. And Josh, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
It's not working for me. Let me try to share it again. It's giving me an error. Give me 1 second, please. Okay. So these ones were taken today as well. So this is just kind of showing you the amount of space that we have. So if we were to be in the alley and we had carts there, there's maybe 3 feet between that gate and the vehicle, even less between the garage and that vehicle. The utility poles that do stick out and cause some challenges for us to maneuver around in these alleys. Same thing, this is the opposite side of where that other garage was. So this is what they're having to drive past. And if there's a laborer, obviously the view of the driver and the labor, which is critical because we want to make sure we know where they're at all times, is obstructed by the vegetation right here as well. So just passing by, it may seem ideal, but, right behind this gate, if, where are we supposed to put the trash and recycling and compost carts? I mean, there's not a lot of space between that fence line and the vehicle. And you can see some of the vegetation and the utility poles even going past it. And here's some steps, in the back as well. This is to give a wider view of that same fence line. And this is even passing it and going towards, headed in the same direction in that alley. Not a lot of space between the fence lines as they're pushing up against the alley line. We have leaning fences already in there. And these are the cubbies or the cutouts that Rich was explaining earlier, where a lot of residents do have when they had the manual collection. So they would place all their 32-gallon cans in there. Now with the fences leaning in and, having multiple carts, you know, I don't know if they would all even fit in there. And then leaving them on a ledge, we do not have our drivers or our laborers collecting from that high off of the ground, because now we're asking them to pull a full cart off of that ledge into that truck. Same thing, you have a garage on one side and then you have another fence line on the other with the utility poles. The vegetation between the two properties with I'm assuming it's a garage and another garage on the right-hand side.
So a question for you or someone in DOTI, were there smaller trash trucks purchased in the past? And if so, where did they go?
So we do have some small trucks that are in our trash collection. We have small side loaders that do collect. They're right now, those small, they're not smaller in width. They're the same width as our other vehicles, and they're automated vehicles that collect on the side. Those are circulated throughout Denver. So we have some that are in Southwest Denver, Northeast Denver, and even currently in Southeast Denver. So those are dispersed throughout the city. They're not really dedicated to a certain neighborhood, but we circulate them with, some of the double-sided alleys that we have, like in, Northfield, that we may have in Lowry. Just with the churning radiuses of those are a little bit easier to churn because they're shorter in length, not in width, but it makes the churns a little bit more easier to utilize those type of vehicles. We have had some smaller rear loaders in the past. I'm not quite sure when we did purchase those. However, I know that we do utilize those as well in some of our other alleys, but we don't have it dedicated to one neighborhood. That's more of it goes throughout the city of Denver on some of the alleys that we don't service with the recycling and compost currently right now. But we're also looking at that for efficiency purposes as well, because we don't have a lot of those vehicles on hand.
So I was going to save this for a little bit later, but I think now is a great time to ask the question. And maybe this is for Margaret. I've been doing quite a bit of research on electric vehicle trash trucks, and it turns out that there are grant programs available from Excel and some other entities, and I would love for DOTI to commit to doing some research on these EV trash trucks. I think even Excel has some grant programs. And it's my understanding that there are a few different kinds of electric trash trucks, but some are smaller, both in width and length. And so I'm asking you the question, I suppose, and I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot, but if you'd be willing to commit to researching the more about EV trash trucks and securing one or two or three and prioritizing Congress Park as the location for the implementation for these new EV trash trucks.
Thank you, Councilman Hinds, and thank you. I know that you have challenged DOTI to look at EV vehicles for trash collection, and we have written a grant application to Excel Energy to be part of a pilot program. We are pretty hopeful that we're going to be accepted into the program and then be able to run a pilot program for these EV trucks. I think as Josh and Rich have said, these smaller trucks, a lot of times they're smaller, more in length than in width. And when you have smaller trucks, they have to go to the transfer station more often, which is quite a distance, so that ends up, not only taking a lot of time, but taking a lot of gas and fuel, whatever the energy source might be. So, but that was, thank you, Councilman Hinds. I think, we stood up to the challenge that you gave to us, and we are looking into a partnership, and we should know within the next month or so if we've been accepted into the program.
Okay, and so thanks for the information about EV trucks. And I think there are a lot of folks in Congress Park. It's kind of outside the scope of this conversation tonight, but I know there are a lot of folks in Congress Park who care a lot about our continued habitability on the planet. So, so I think that this might knock out two birds with one stone. One, that we're getting away from combustion engines, but two, that we would get closer to trucks that could safely fit in the alley, like the residents of Congress Park have experienced basically from the beginning of time until about a year ago. So, but one thing I didn't hear is I'd love to also hear you say that Congress Park would be the priority if when these trucks are secured.
We did identify Congress Park as the area that we would run the pilot program in. So if we're successful with that, we have prioritized that. And thank you, Councilman Hinds, for that. I did just want to maybe have Rich talk again. I know when he talked earlier, he did talk about the smaller trucks I think we keep hearing about that were purchased and demoed in the alleys, and they did not operate as intended. And so maybe, Rich, if you can just reiterate that. I think maybe not everyone heard you.
So yeah, so we got our smaller AMRAP that again is shorter in length, and it's just a little bit in the width. And so what the issue was is the arm that has to go out and grab the cart, it has a claw, so it needs to have a certain amount of room. The claw is about 2 feet wide, and the cart sticking 3 feet. So we have to have enough room on the to maneuver on the other side to be able to grab the carts, because the claws close. So we have to have enough room. And when we tried that, when we went through the alley, we placed 20 carts in the alley, and we were only able to successfully pick up 3 without any issues. I myself was on one side, another manager was on the other side, and we were having to direct that driver. So now, because that driver was trying to concentrate so much on picking up the carts, that we did almost hit, a pole and some other things. So we don't have those people out there. And I think that was the challenge, is that there was just not enough width to be able to extend the claw and grab the cart successfully, unless there was a couple where they actually sit back. They were not in the alley, they were sitting back on a property where in one of those cutouts. And then I think the other challenge is that we pick up the carts on one side of the alley. So as Josh had spoken to, if we put the trash carts back in there, we would put the recycle and compost. So now everybody would have to find room for 3 carts back in the alley, and then the people across the way would have to find ways. So now we're looking at blocking driveways, garages, and even trying to have enough room in the alley to possibly put 60 carts and still be able to maneuver through there.
Yeah, thank you for the additional context. So I'm already asking some of the questions that have been placed in the Q&A, just for what it's worth. And people have been asking about the smaller trucks. Vegetation, if vegetation in the alley is a problem, can we ask homeowners to and the leaning fence, what's the process for asking homeowners to make sure that the alley is preserved as of right of way for as it was originally intended? So
what we have done, or what we could ask, is that we would have a supervisor or a couple supervisors drive through every alley that's affected and mark down all of the issues, low-hanging branches, poles in the thing, garages where their gutters are hanging over, looking at where exactly there would be space to put all the carts. And then if there's things that, like if vegetation is, into the alley that is taking away parts of us to drive through, sometimes people put landscaping, gardens back there. If the branches are overhanging, which would cause, if we're going through and the branches are overhanging, they could be, hitting the truck, possibly catching some hoses or things like that. So if we were to go and identify those and, the residents of the alley were willing to correct those, and then, if we could get in there, that would be a possibility.
So there are a few questions in the Q&A about my bin is rarely full. Can I get a smaller bin? I think this might be an opportunity to talk about the upcoming trash collection and how people can secure a smaller bin. Would any of you at DOTI want to address that?
So, you can do it in a couple ways. You can call 311 and say, hey, I would like to request, if you have a 95, if you wanted to go down to a 65, or if you wanted to go down to the smallest one, a 35, you could request that. You could go online into our online apps and you could do that request also. And then a work order would be made, and it usually takes 2 to 4 weeks to go ahead and exchange that trash cart or recycle cart, or if they have a compost cart. There is the opportunity to downsize all 3 trash, recycle, and compost carts.
Got it. Thank you. What about, it sounds like there's some people in the chat that are pushing back on whether they can access the accommodation for people with disabilities and older adults. Will you reiterate the process to request that, and just so that we have it, and if for everyone who's here, if you'd copy me in this process, I'll make sure that that we know that all the requests are getting fulfilled.
So again, it's reaching out to us either through 311 or the apps and say, I have concerns that I can't get my trash, recycle, or compost carts down to the curb. A supervisor or a manager will go out, go knock on the door, talk to them, assess the situation, and then we will mark it on our map so that it is marked on the map. So whatever driver is doing that will know that we have to go up. We go up to the top of the stairs. We will take the cart down, service it, and then we will take it back up to the same spot that it was that we grabbed it from. And that's the process that we would be doing. And then that would be, for all the services that they have.
Yeah, thank you for that. And again, I would encourage anyone to copy me in that request. It does seem a little odd that there have been, I think you said 17 people are now on the service, but we've had 94 folks submit their address as having concerns about the trash collection. So maybe that they're not exactly apples to apples type questions, but given the amount of emails that we get and phone calls we get in our office, does seem to be a bit of a disconnect to only have 17 on that service. So I would again encourage folks to let me know that you're requesting the accommodation. So I do want to I want to give a couple people the opportunity to ask questions directly. So I'm going to go to Andrew Clark. If you're interested and willing to share your thoughts, you have your hand raised. Go ahead. Oh, and if you, yeah, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Good. Okay. I don't know if I'm on the video or not, but several questions. The first is, as public servants, the members of DOTI are, I believe, supposed to do the will of the public, not the other way around. And I have collected signatures with great ease in Congress Park, 50 signatures so far in the first 2 hours. Not one person I talked to on the street, in their houses, not one person says they would rather have street pickup. Every single person I speak to says we want it back in the alley because the alleys work fine for decades. So my question is, will DOTI follow the will of the public? Because you guys are the public servants and we are your kind of masters here. You do what we say. It's not the other way around. And if we want it to be done our way, isn't it your duty to do that? So yes or no on that question, please, starting with Margaret.
Yeah, our responsibility is to make sure that the services are done safely and efficiently, and we have limited resources. And we have a large city we have to distribute resources across. So I think if the ask is, should we take our limited resources and do the will of the people we're hearing from it in Congress Park at the expense of the rest of the city? That's not, no, that's not what we are here to do. But what we are here to do is to hear from our constituents and to come up with plans and collaborate together. And that's really what we want to do, is to collaborate. But I think if you're asking us to take the results of a survey that you've done and just blindly apply that, I'm a professional engineer in the state of Colorado, and that is not something that I can do. And I know that both Rich and Josh are also professionals, and we cannot just blindly apply the will of a few people in Congress Park. But we are here to make sure that service is done safely and efficiently. And we have heard from a handful of people who prefer street pickup, and they are saying that they feel safer in their alleys now, that there's more room for cars to maneuver. So it isn't the majority. I think in the survey that Councilman Hinds did, it came out to about 7% of the survey. But I know Josh and Rich, we do get emails as well from people who are asking us, please do not go back to the alleys. The alleys are already congested. They're hard to maneuver our vehicles through. So, you know, I think that there's a bigger picture that we need to consider and balance and have resources equally distributed across the city.
There was one other person who had their hand raised. I don't see that person now. So I do want to make sure that we've got one other person. So I'm Sheila. If you want to ask your question, please unmute.
You know, since this happened, there has been no consultation in advance with the neighbors. And I was in the first phase of complaining to every department and had done it again. And I think I've gotten the most no help, particularly from people like Margaret, who answered my last email. And you guys, you have to know that your jobs are all on the line, because we're not the only ones that are not happy in this neighborhood. And, you know, I mean, I think Josh is our person for our block, and he's been very accommodating. I think Richard is put in a bad position. Why is he interim? Because the other director couldn't stay with this bull crap. Yeah, that's one of my questions. But another question is, how is it better to put your drivers at risk in going up steep inclines in icy, snowy weather and picking up trash from people's yards where they might fall and possibly sue the property owner? I mean, this is ridiculous. And if you guys had done some due diligence before you bought the smaller trucks in terms of what would work, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, I've been on fire about this issue for over a year, and I've got no good results. And I'm a political activist, and I'm a taxpayer, and I'm going to keep on it.
Thank you so much for sharing. Certainly, there are a lot of folks who have similar concerns. We're getting close to the end of our time. We've got several people with their hands raised now. I want to give the opportunity for one other person to share their thoughts. I did commit to having this be an hour, so I don't want to waste. I don't want to go too much over that time, but let's have Maria. If you can unmute, then ask your question.
Hi. Well, first I want to say thank you so much.
You muted again. I'm sorry. If you could unmute.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry about that, but go ahead.
Oh, so first I just want to say thank you for giving up your time this evening. I work from home, and I live on a corner. So when it's trash day for me, I hear and or see the trucks 4 times, right? They go up the street north, they come down the street on the south side, then they have to go across on the numbered streets 2 times to pick up all the trash. So my question is, given that the trucks are now doing 4 times the route that they used to be doing, are we actually really saving any money? Like with this system? I mean, I'm curious because it doesn't seem like it based on the number of miles that the trucks are having to drive now and the time it takes to do those extra miles.
Thank you. Is that true, DOTI? Are there 4 passes in each block?
So each service is serviced by a different truck because we can't mix trash, recycling, and compost. So even though that the trucks look similar, they all are picking up something. So yes, you could see numerous trucks going up and down because one will be picking up the trash cart, one will be picking up the other cart. So we do go down the streets more than once.
And there also in Congress Park, there are some multifamily buildings too, right? So it is possible that there are single family and multifamily units on the same block, and there might be private trash services also going down the same block. Is that right, or am I off?
Could be, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and someone just mentioned that in the chat that it's very inefficient. I completely agree. We are limited by state law on whether we can compete with the private trash companies with multifamily buildings. So ask your state legislator if we could have more flexibility for limiting that inefficiency. So it looks like it's at 7 o'clock. We did wait a couple minutes to make sure that everyone was in. So I'm gonna take one more comment from the group. Chris, unmute. Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go for it.
Yes? Okay,
Yeah,
you guys went out. So my only question is, okay. My question is, those trucks are really, really loud. And from what I can tell from this conversation, we're probably not going to see much in the way of changes. And I appreciate everything you guys do, I really do, but can you do something about the sound? I work from home as well, and on trash days, it is fantastically loud, those trucks.
I think potentially if we can go to EV vehicles, that'll be quieter in terms of the engine, but I think probably what you're talking about might be the physical actually movement of the trash. And I don't know, Rich or Josh.
No, it's not. It's not. It's the
Okay.
trucks. They roar like dragons. And then, then there's the sound of the trash, but that's really not near as disconcerting as the sound of the trucks themselves when they accelerate.
Yeah, and I know what you mean, because when they step on the gas, it does make that loud noise, and they're going stop to stop. I don't know if there's really anything we can do about that. It's a diesel truck, and then even if a CNG truck, they still are making that loud noise. But hopefully with that EV that we are looking into, that will help, because you won't be hearing that, and you'll just be hearing us emptying the carts. If there's a full trash cart, sometimes it'll clank, or even if it's a recycle cart, if there's a lot of bottles or something in there, it does make a noise, because it is dumping from, down into our chute area that could be 2 to 3 feet down. So, but the trucks are loud, unfortunately, but with this EV thing, that could be a possibility of, helping with that noise.
All right. So thank you, everyone who attended this this town hall. I see 4 actually takeaways. The first is I hope that DOTI continues to allow for accommodations for people with disabilities or older adults, and so I think that's an important consideration given the survey results and all the feedback that we continue to get. And if people, just even in the chat tonight, I read that some folks are saying that they have reached out and not gotten a response. So again, I encourage people to reach out to DOTI again if you want an accommodation, and please include me in that in that request. The second is the EV trash trucks. I think the Chris, the last commenter, gave yet another reason why EV trash trucks might be beneficial in Congress Park. I would assume elsewhere in the city, but this conversation is about Congress Park. So I again challenge and encourage DOTI to seek and obtain EV trash trucks and reconsider with the EV trucks trash collection in the alley. The third is the stakeholder process. So the person who made the call and ultimately got the feedback for the decision on Thursday to change trash collection on Monday is no longer with the city of Denver. So I want to make sure that maybe Art Mejia learned the important point of stakeholder engagement. I sure hope that DOTI will commit, and I would ask you to respond, commit to making sure that there are stakeholder processes in the future, and that we don't let the education or the knowledge from the private industry impact the stakeholder processes that we as public servants provide. So Margaret, are you willing to address that?
Absolutely. And I think, we all learned from that. That was a really poor job of communicating, and we've changed our processes. And, I know Art apologized to the group, and I want to apologize to the group. That went down really poorly. And, I think, here a year later, we're still seeing that we've got a lot of concern in the community. So Councilman Hinds, yes, we will continue to communicate with the community, and we won't make a change like that without having more communication in the community.
Thank you for that. And then the last thing I would ask of DOTI is about transparency. So you have mentioned several times about worker safety, and I think that certainly is a fair ask. We don't want anyone to get hurt, including residents in Congress Park and elsewhere. But I don't have a specific ask, but I would encourage DOTI to consider how we can better educate the public on the challenges that we have with the trash collection as we are doing today. And Margaret, you mentioned that our city is growing by leaps and bounds, and I think that's certainly a fair point. I think we just want to make sure that people understand that this is one of the 10 most dangerous jobs for a reason. Nationally, that's not just a Denver statistic, that's a national statistic. And we want to make sure that everyone is safe, including our drivers and the operators that visit 180,000 homes every week. So that's the extent of the scale that these folks here in DOTI do every week. So I want to thank everyone for attending. We had just shy of 50 attendees. Someone did ask in the chat for the number of attendees. We had just shy of 50 attendees here. You're welcome to reach out to my office. My email address is district10@denvergov.org. Super easy email address. The entire team in the District 10 office has access to that email address. And I would also, so we're happy to facilitate the conversation. If anyone wants to reach out to DOTI directly, DOTI, do you want to provide your email address or contact information?
Yeah, and so my name is Margaret Medellin, MARGARET.MEDELLIN @denvergov.org. And if you email me, I can route it to the right team member.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for the nearly 50 folks who attended today. DOTI, thank you as well for being here. I in our conversation before, when we were preparing for this, I knew this wasn't going to be an easy or fun conversation. I want to thank you for being here, despite it being a tough conversation. And I also want to thank my District 10 staff. So everyone from my office is here as well. And so I'm sure we'll be continuing to hear from people in Congress Park. I hope this has been helpful. I certainly have learned quite a bit about trash collection in the last 24 hours that I did not know before tonight. Hopefully that has been helpful for the people who participated. And hopefully DOTI has also learned some things today. And we have some challenges for DOTI, as in I am challenging DOTI to do a few additional things. So I hope that we can, DOTI can accept that challenge and will rise to it. Certainly, I'm happy to reconvene at some point or ask DOTI to come back to committee to give an update on electric vehicles, how DOTI could be more, trash collection could be more transparent, and the assistance for people who need it, like people with disabilities or older adults. So thank you again, and I believe that's a wrap. Have a wonderful evening.